Hey, what's up, everyone? Before I share this extremely important clip from last week's podcast, I wanted to show some of the current specials we have over at Miles Franklin. We have Eagles, only $4.99 over spot, junk silver, only $3 over spot, and 10th ounce gold maples, $30 over spot. That has a 5 coin minimum, but the other two silver deals do not. Just email me, slayer@milesfranklin.com, and I'll get you guys hooked up. We have a massive inventory with great prices and new deals every single week. Now, with that said, enjoy the segment.
You have to ask yourself, of all of the commodities traded on the COMEX, why is there the largest concentrated short position, meaning by a handful of players, commercial banks, in silver, more than any other commodity on the exchange? Why?
Right.
And that's a question. Then you work backwards from there. And so I think it's easy to come up with these statements when you look at the reality, but people don't ever look at that reality. And just ask that question. Why is the Silver Institute omitting these things? And why is there the largest concentrated short position of any commodity traded in the whole futures exchange in lowly old silver, if it's not that important? And these are questions that allow your mind to expand and then try and seek the truth in a way that is not conspiratorial. There's a very fine line between conspiracy and reality. And I've learned that in this industry. And I was the guy up on stage at the Agora conference screaming that the markets are being manipulated by J.P. Morgan. And Doug Casey said, no, that's impossible. Right after me, that's impossible. He got up and said, J.P. Morgan traders can't keep their mouth shut long enough. Oh, lo and behold, J.P. Morgan has 3 traders in prison and paid a $920 million fine, the largest ever that the Justice Department passed out at that point. So the point is that, is it conspiracy? Is it reality? Where is it? You know, I mean, where's the tinfoil hat? And I think that's one of the things that has enabled people to look past this because it's just conspiracy, it's bullshit. But it's not. And these are the things that why there'll be very little advanced warning to everyone out there. We've been screaming this forever, but the people on the street who've never listened, they won't notice it until it's blown off. And I think that's coming. That's in the cards.
Yeah. And that's actually that's a perfect segue into this article. This is some good stuff. I made a video about this yesterday, but I want to share this last section. Silver, the investment of the decade. As we navigate this juncture in the precious metals market, it's evident that silver holds the potential to be one of the most profitable investments of this decade. The historical echoes of the gold to silver ratio and the current anomaly in silver's lag suggest that a resolution is near. Investors, prepare yourselves for a silver resurgence, a journey that may be tumultuous but promises rewards for those who ride the waves wisely.
Right on. I agree. And that's that volatility.
Yep.
And typically you see greater volatility before a blow off in any market in either direction. And, you know, I mean, take a look at the far bottom left there. You know, before you took off, great volatility, up, down, down hard, and then way up. And then, I mean, that's what you see. You see much greater volatility before a market really takes off. That's typical.
Yeah. A lot of, what is this saying? Like 90% of the movement happens the last
10%.
Last 10%. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. And that's when human emotions take over and when you have to be much more logical.
Yeah.
But these are all things that are very important that you won't find in the mainstream. And that's why I made in a comment, like, you belong. There are very few silver commentators out here who do the research that you do and look at it and frame it in a way that makes you think. So you know, I think that's fantastic, and people owe you a debt of gratitude as far as I'm concerned. What you do is not easy. Putting yourself out there is not easy, and you know, but it's admirable. And you know, I think the stories that you find are spot on. And when you comment on them, that's exactly what you're doing. You're not giving financial advice. You're commenting on a story and on its authenticity. But I think things are just getting going for silver. And I know it's hard for people maybe to hear that because it's been such a drawn out process. But this is something you have to think in terms of big picture. The
Yeah.
way that these nations are accumulating silver against the West, using the suppression against them, has to be methodical. It has to be done plotting and drawn out and slowly rather than all at once. So this is one of these deals that will be like this, and then bang, there'll be no more silver left to be delivered at these prices. And maybe that is a problem with the COMEX, or maybe that's just a realization that the coffers are empty. And then things change immediately. And then it goes the other direction, and it will run to the upside as much as has been held down to the downside, because once it's set free from the shackles of the Western suppression and it's valued for its real utility, I think the upside potential is life changing. Now, I don't sell gold and silver for these reasons. I don't sell them for profit potential, but I do think that silver is the trade of a generation. I do. It's definitely the trade of the decade. And, I mean, I buy it because it's money and it's wealth outside the system. But the fundamentals, both supply and demand, um, are incredible. And I think it's something that will only start to show its true value here, maybe in 2024, as things start to become a little bit more real, if you will.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. That's exactly, man. Like, I swear there's only a couple of people that I've covered that like truly have put the missing puzzle piece together. Like everyone always has, like they'll be spot on certain parts, but people like Keith Neumeyer, yourself, Ted Butler, David Morgan, um, who else? Mike Maloney, I could even say to some extent, Bix Ware. Um, there's a couple other people too. I'm not remembering right. I don't know, but those are people I feel like that truly get it. A lot of people just look at one section or another, and that can be pretty dangerous because when you're looking at such a like the micro, for example, and you miss the bigger picture, that's when you're not incorporating so many different unknown variables. And you'll see forecasts where I saw a forecast yesterday, actually. They said we would be shocked if silver doesn't hit all-time highs within 3 years, tops. And a lot of people were saying like that's impossible. It's like how is that impossible? three
Well,
years tops
I
to
think
hit all-time
people
highs.
will say that because of the information that the mainstream is providing and the
Yeah,
price action that we've seen would make people believe that. Remember what I've said a long time ago to you: price is the ultimate tool of misdirection. And if
yeah,
you hold down the price, it creates a reality regardless of the fundamentals. And that's why when you talk about the fundamentals being distorted, oh, you're just saying that you're a conspiracy. That's not true, blah, blah, blah. But it's very easy to see if you go down the silver rabbit hole. Do
yeah,
your research and then make your comments. And
yeah,
you are in a position of authority to say that, and so am I. I've done my research. The people who push back and say that kind of stuff, they haven't, well, they maybe have looked down the rabbit hole, but they haven't certainly jumped in and plugged their nose and here we go. And I think that's the important thing. So the more you start to read this and look or read about it and research it, and the more sense it makes.
yeah. I like that. The silver rabbit hole. I like that. I like that. But anyways, yeah, in closing, is there anything else you wanted to talk about or mention?
No, well, I think the only other thing is, we talked a little bit, I think, last week about United Arab Emirates telling the world they didn't want to use oil. And I don't know if we or use the dollar for oil, which is a huge shot across the Western bow. But I don't know that if we talked about the fact that a couple days later, Putin made a surprise impromptu
Yeah,
trip to the United Arab Emirates, flanked by 4 Russian MiG fighter jets. The day, right after this United Nations meeting ended with 200 countries coming to talk about climate control, the meeting presided over by the head of the United Arab Emirates state-owned oil company, who told the world the day before, 2 days before all these countries arrived, hey, we're not going to take dollars anymore for oil. Well, then the summit ends. Putin makes an impromptu trip to the UAE, and then goes directly to Saudi Arabia, whereby they then say, oh, we're going to actually increase our reduction in daily output from 1.1 to 2.2 billion a million barrels of oil per day. So is it coincidence, or is this group gaining credibility, great gaining legitimacy? I think that, to me, that's something to keep your eye on. This is really beginning to spin faster. And in years past, when a country would say something like that, think Muammar Gaddafi, think of Saddam Hussein. One said, I'm going to take euro for oil. The other said, I'm going to take gold for oil. And they were both toppled and killed, and their regimes changed. Well, ain't so easy to do that when the United Arab Emirates just joined the BRICS alongside of Saudi Arabia, and in 11 days they become full members. You have strength in numbers. You have strength in backing two of the three largest nuclear arsenals in the world. And is there any coincidence that after they make this very daring statement, glaring and daring, that Putin decides to fly over with four MiGs,
Yeah.
flanking him, because he hasn't left the country but once or twice in the last few years because of the bounty on his head. But it was enough to have him fly in person to the UAE. I think it's very, very important in what it says. And
Yeah.
that's why I believe 2024 is going to be one crazy, crazy year.